Manufacturing Matters is an MFG Radio Network production brought to you by GIE Media's Manufacturing Group as industry experts take deep dives into the latest manufacturing matters, whether it's new innovations, products, technologies, and emerging markets that help you understand better why manufacturing matters to you and also to the top companies in the medical, aerospace, defense, and electric vehicle manufacturing industries. Hello and welcome to the latest discussion from GIE Media's Manufacturing Group of magazines. This is part 2 of the BlueForge Alliance webinar series, The Power of Public-Private Partnerships. I'm Jake Kaufman, Senior Editor for Defense and Munitions Magazine. We'd like to begin by thanking our 2025 webinar series sponsor, Kennametal. Kennametal has been cutting metal since 1938. It's a story of continuous innovation, starting with the development of revolutionary tungsten titanium carbide alloyed cutting tools specifically for working with steel. This not only led to a new class of machining tools that cut faster, last longer, and drove productivity in everything from the automobile to the airplane, but also in Kennametal's recognition as an industry leader across continents and industries, including transportation, construction, aerospace, defense, medical, general engineering, and more. They don't cut corners, they cut metal. Your toughest materials don't stand a chance. Learn more at kennametal.com. We are also like to thank today's sponsors, ProMess and also Smithers. ProMess delivers high precision assembly and test solutions that are tailored for the defense industry, and that also includes high precision assembly and test solutions that includes, systems certified for use in hazardous environments. Their electric press technology offers unmatched control, data collection, and reliability for mission-critical applications. From munitions assemblies to aerospace components, ProMess engineers ensure safety, repeatability, and adaptability, meeting the rigorous demands of defense manufacturing. And Smithers is an international leader in testing, inspection, certification, and compliance. Smithers Quality Assessments is one of 8 divisions. Smithers Quality Assessments was accredited in 1993 and since that time has served as a certification body for several standards, including ISO 9001, AS 9100, IATF 16949, and more. Most recently, Smithers Quality Assessments became a authorized CMMC third-party assessor organization. Smithers Quality Assessments can also audit companies against the ISO 27001 standard. We're happy to be joined today by Dr. John Mogford, PhD, who joined BlueForge Alliance in August of 2025 as the Executive Vice President for Strategy and Technology. In this role, he provides strategic planning, leadership, for BlueForge while working to apply supply chain, workforce development, and training and technology integration into the defense industrial base. Without any further ado, Dr. Mogford, the floor is all yours. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, Jake, thank you, and thank you to all the groups that helped make this happen, especially the sponsors, Kennametal, ProMess, and Smithers. That is greatly appreciated, and it is wonderful to be here with you all today, talking about the role for public-private partnerships. I think get called a whole bunch of different things, 3P, PPP, but the partnerships are play a central role, critical role in supporting the U.S. Navy and the maritime industrial base. But I think as I go through this, a lot of this can be generalized, certainly to the entire defense industrial base, or really to any industrial activity or technology development activity that involves a number of different variables and players in the technology. So what I would like to do is first, and this may be a little bit of a reset from the first one, is setting the challenge that really helped birth BlueForge Alliance. and that was the focus on the maritime industrial base or the submarine industrial base. So whether we're talking submersibles or surface vessels supporting the industrial base, this support has accelerated over the last decade or so with an appreciation for the need supporting national security directives. And so it's seen its largest recapitalization in half a century. So it's wonderful mentally to think about resources, time, effort, and attention going up, quickly, but at the same time that the capacity of the nation for manufacturing and shipbuilding has been has been trending down certainly since the end of the Cold War. Kind of a atrophying of the overall defense industrial base, shipbuilding industrial base. So we're seeing these trend lines moving in the wrong directions for one moving in the wrong direction to support the one that's wanting to go and accelerate and expand our capacity. So in breaking down these constraints, uh, the big buckets really are the primes or the shipbuilders in this case for maritime industrial base. And when I say primes, again, you can apply that to all kinds of different foci of the defense industrial base. Certainly, there's the suppliers, highly diverse, which is oftentimes a strength, but that also means fragmented, many different challenges amongst a nationwide diversified group of supply chain sources. And then finally, the workforce. And I think um, it's whether we say it's a vanishing talent pool, I tend to flip the coin and say why there's a huge uplift and need and opportunity for the nation to answer the call in terms of training and developing a manufacturing focused pool of workforce, not only for what we're doing at BlueForge, but as we're listening to at a national scale, international scale, even the investments that are being discussed in the United States for manufacturing, the demand for workforces, I hope continues to expand. And I'm, from a BlueForge perspective, happy to be in that challenge because I think that's a good sign for the nation. On a different axis, though, with affecting shipbuilders, suppliers, workforce, or certainly the approach of, okay, how do we integrate across these different groups? Um, Again, a diverse set of stakeholders, huge population of suppliers at different maturity levels, different incentives, different challenges, both from the workforce column, uh, access to supply chains, the thinking of going in and how and the tools needed to integrate across these large columns of activity is really huge. And then the scale, speaking to the recapitalization, not only dealing with integration, but at the same time saying, okay, we need to accelerate all aspects of this and do it in the integrated way. And speed is, I think, always of mind. Um, you know, I think the types of things that we're talking about here, the demands, support of anything that goes into national security, I think speed is of course paramount. Speed speaks to not only developing the technology, training the workforce, making supply chains more efficient, but certainly on from a U.S. government or a contracting perspective is getting support into the hands of these different groups so that they can move faster, not be constrained by paperwork bureaucracy. And speaking a little bit to the workforce challenges, just to, I think, reinforce and highlight, uh, some of the challenges that we're dealing with, speaking to the diversity of this ecosystem, that by and large, these are legally small businesses, 33% with fewer than 100 employees, 98% less than 500. And, as you go down 50 employees, 20 employees, can be, I think really does reinforce that concept that highly diverse, broadly geographically distributed, highly reliant on supply chains and local training, availability of workforce, just highlights that challenge across those three sectors. So this sets kind of the challenge that led to the formation of BlueForge in 22. And so in stepping up to that challenge, BlueForge, the founders kind of created a vision whereby the entity would be a nonprofit, so hopefully viewed as an objective arbiter in across the ecosystem. Of course, wholly focused on mission, in this case for the U.S. Navy, or really for any partner, understanding their mission, their demands, their pace, and matching in all three of those areas so that we can turn those trend lines of atrophy to um, uh, building and matching the recapitalization, the demand for capabilities, whether in the maritime environment or elsewhere. And we do that, by focusing on those challenge space. And I'll speak to each of these, from a vision, mission statement perspective. I'll walk through what I think are the pertinent points of this mission statement. First being, the concept of an alliance or a partner is certainly the focus for today, but I think all of it fits into that role and a public-private partnership and um, a support position that a group like BlueForge Alliance can take. So moving into partnerships and the ecosystems in which we all operate, we view ourselves as, again, kind of a scaling partner to a large diversity of entities, be they private sector, be they societies or alliances of their own, academia, institutes, at both regional, local, national, international levels, and converge and coalesce these groups who by themselves are oftentimes partly focused on defense industrial base, maritime industrial base, but also have their own ecosystem. So we see ourselves as a coalescing partner for focus on, in this case, maritime industrial base and U.S. Navy mission and supporting that mission. So really a coalescing function. Um, Getting a little bit into some details, particularly from an academic coalition, and certainly for the participants here, I suspect that many of us have connectivity to a broad swath of academic partners. Uh, we would love to hear from as many as possible, certainly not those only highlighted here. So this is the Additive Manufacturing Academic Coalition, initiated roughly 2 years ago, uh, quite a bit focused on leveraging the expertise and the mission of the universities, which is education, research and development, and also service. So these relationships with these universities are focused on educating the next generation of maybe more technically focused, advanced research focused workforce, but also engaging in research and development, particularly early stage and a little bit beyond early stage development of technologies that are expected to help with any aspect of manufacturing, supply chain management, or workforce training. You also see that there are some international sites, Guam and Australia. Uh, you know, our role here is really to engage and manage the relationship and help these partners, I think, understand, appreciate, and stay and keep their focus on the mission set of, in this case, the U.S. Navy, or whoever the other partners are. It's just a forcing function of focus. we certainly realize that a lot of this, and particularly because of that diversity of the industrial base, the diversity of where workforce training occurs, where workers come from, that much of this is driven locally or regionally, state level. And we see our role as one of coordinating at a national and international level. So certainly in this circle in which BlueForge sees themselves in the middle of, things like facilities, local expertise, capabilities, those are truly local. But we work to leverage those and utilize those and exploit those at a higher level, whether regional, national, international, to meet the industrial base needs. We try to serve as a kind of a multi-directional conveyor of lessons learned. So what are we hearing from our government customers, other government partners, any member of the industrial base that sits in any of these categories, and ensure that that's shared across the ecosystem to help either with efficiencies or get around barriers. And that's just the way that we see this. And this integrate nationally, catalyze locally, I understand is the focus of the third part of this three-part series. And I'll let Jake at some point confirm, which I think is in December of this year, but it would in essence be a deep dive on the work done and shown in this chart here. So the next part of the mission statement is acceleration. And I kind of foreshadowed there's a couple of different aspects of acceleration. One is accelerating, whether it's with the primes with actual in-state manufacturing, whether it's supply chain, any aspect of industrial based component manufacturing, or it's workforce training, acceleration of activities in those space. And oftentimes that is related to acceleration in efficiency in contracts and procurement. So I'll speak a little bit to both of those. This is I find to be a really nice chart breaking down what are two basic areas. One at the top, the series of boxes, is really an idea, is going from here's something we need, here's an idea, and taking it all the way down to a real capability, a real asset, a real tool, a real knowledge data set. And that's the reference in the title to what's referred to bits to atoms. So how do I take bits, computer bits, idea, data, and turn it into something that's real, that's built from atoms? It's kind of from a very fundamental perspective, but a very simple way to think about it. And then everything that goes into making sure that you can take an idea and turn it into something real that goes into someone's hands where it's needed. Much of this is data driven. And so we have focused a great deal of effort on using data driven decision making, whether it's supply chain analysis, supply chain quality, built-in QA, QC risk assessment, factoring in economic data, even local, regional, state level political government relations type of information, and make sure that that filters in at the right place of the idea to the tool, the capability, the asset, whatever you want to call what's in that last box of what goes in your hands to help you do a job, or in this case, put a submarine in the water. So we spend an extraordinary amount of effort on that integrated data component, maybe one of the larger pieces of the BlueForge Alliance group, and really put it to work in support of driving and delivering for the U.S. Navy. This speaks to the speed of executing contracts and procurement actions. In a previous life, when I was on the government side, this was something that I was really focused on for our group, and I would often say that nothing beats speed and putting money in people's hands that we are asking to do or perform on a statement of work. And so I was very pleased when I joined BlueForge a couple of months ago to see data sets like this. And while it's scrubbed of details, I think the thing to really notice here is the left axis number of wards and then the working days to execute on either a contract or procurement is to continuously drive that down. And while this is limited to a 9-month period of 2025, this is generally a trend that I've seen in internal data and one that I kind of cheekily call our superpower. I think and wish every group would work this fast, and it's something that I would love to see that trend continue downward. It's one of the most important things to me that the alliance that we can do is to move money to work procurements, to get contracts in place as quickly as possible so folks can stay focused on the work at hand. And then the last big section of the mission is integrated approaches. Again, for focus on access, scale, and speed, and for our view of maritime industrial base. And again, this is something that can absolutely be generalized to any industrial base, any activity that's reliant on supply chains and a multitude of contractors and subcontractors. And for us, we view this as the focal points are supply chain optimization, focus on making sure that supplies, raw materials, middle state product gets moved to where it needs to be. And again, nothing moves without workforce development. We're not at the state of perfect dark factories yet. Humans are certainly a big part of this, and that demand is huge and growing. And we always have our eye on advanced technologies at various levels of maturity and work with our partners to think about how do we properly integrate and adopt at the right moment these technologies in a way that is seamless and doesn't disrupt too much the overall state of the manufacturing activity. So I'll dive a little bit into each one and give some examples. While BlueForge Alliance is headquartered in Bryan College Station, Texas, we have a network across the United States and internationally where we work with suppliers and mapping processes, looking at the technologies that are used to map supply chains, and do help make targeted investments where there are choke points or anticipated choke points. And we do this, through the public-private partnerships, and certainly a comfortable space where a nonprofit can move in either in a relationship with a customer, if that's U.S. government, with private sector, or between two private sector companies or sources in the alliance, or through societies. We have that flexibility and agility to work across the ecosystem, hopefully again in a objective way to help meet mission need. This 6-pack of examples, really isn't meant to be an eye chart, but it's what I'd like to point out is one, just the kind of a breadth of groups that we work with, and then some of the I think the milestones achieved with a variety of different manufacturing groups, whether it's hours saved, increasing capacity of throughput, or focus on first pass quality and reduction of risk. The workforce development is something that's really from past work before joining BlueForge, something that really hit home, particularly during the pandemic, and watching the conversation at a national level around manufacturing of either PPE, therapeutics, vaccines, all the things that we heard that the nation needed to counter the presence of COVID. In a number of instances, it became clear that, wow, we really didn't focus enough on the workforce that's necessary for some of these aspects. Now, it credit to the nation and the number of groups that stepped up to fill those kind of those potholes, but it really emphasized to me that this is not a space that we as a nation should walk away from. And so I'm really proud that this is part of what BlueForge Alliance does, and particularly through the buildsubmarines.com website of, again, as a public-private partnership, how that gets defined is pretty can be loose, but helping individuals find training programs and they get placed with the workforce or the industrial base. One is a way to accelerate the expansion of the workforce, and then at an individual level to help those trained find really great jobs. And I think that, again, back to the growing demand for on the industrial base and manufacturing capabilities and experience, that this is going to continue to be a high demand type of environment. The expected in the maritime industrial base, the kind of the target workforce number that gets thrown around is 120,000 new workers by 2032. That's a big number, especially if we're looking at competing with other manufacturing industries. And so we are working broadly, not only with traditional trade schools, as I mentioned, the universities, maritime manufacturing groups, community colleges, to accelerate training and get workers into this industrial base. And while that trend line that you see on the bar chart is fantastic to see, I certainly expect that to continue to trend upwards. The absolute numbers are daunting in that we've got a long ways to go. And so this type of work, I think, is something that will always be central to what we're doing, and to kind of highlight the variety of groups that we work with. Again, community college, veteran focused training groups like NextOp, chambers of commerce, and trade schools, to accelerate not only to accelerate recruitment, but also to develop some excitement amongst these trainees in the maritime industrial base, the defense industrial base, and view that as a rewarding pathway and career, because I think these careers will be hot for some time. The final area, technology development, in some ways is a little bit broader in even though it's my kind of trade space, I view it as sometimes more daunting. So we all see the number of technologies that get developed for all kinds of processes. And the four listed here are ones that we especially focus on: additive manufacturing, whether you also want to refer to that as 3D printing. I think that the upsides of additive manufacturing, 3D printing, have been appreciated for a number of decades now. Still some ways to go. Certainly non-destructive testing, or being able to do QA/QC along the developmental pathway and manufacturing pathway. The use of automation, robots, and cobots, to whether it's to speed manufacturing or to offset the demands on pure numbers of workforce. I think there's applications in both space, and certainly kind of the coalescence of all of this in so-called Industry 4.0 of how do you bring this all together under one roof. using digital tools, predictive tools, additive manufacturing in a way that accelerates overall manufacturing support of the industrial base. This six pack is broken out in a little bit different way from the other, which is it goes to those general categories that we focus on in supporting. And so while this focuses on those technical areas, it applies not only to all aspects of the industrial base, that whole diversified population, certainly into the prime contractors, the in-state manufacturing. These types of tools are getting used and are getting eyed for adoption across that entire both continuums. So, again, the general categories of robotics, cobotics, which is the interplay between the human and the machine, and requiring a thoughtfully constructed man-machine interface to improve efficiencies. The non-destructive testing I keep leaning on and going to as certainly a critical area of being able to do again QA QC risk assessment during manufacturing, prior to manufacturing. And I think certainly two areas that will always, well, one of growing interest and challenge, and one that's long been a challenge. The long been a challenge aspect has been just simple technology transition. The developers of the technology certainly looking to implement and get their technology into use. And how do we do that in a way that doesn't alter the outcomes from a quality or a speed perspective, in supporting those conversations, which I'm guessing many here have been in these conversations about licensing, patenting, technology, transition royalties that can get time consuming and messy. And so we put a lot of thought into that. And the one that's emerging, I think that we're all watching with great fascination, maybe some romanticization, but yeah, how do we implement artificial intelligence and machine learning in a thoughtful way that really does bring value add across all aspects of the conversation. So in wrapping up, as a hopefully a objective arbiter, convener, an alliance driver, for the U.S. Navy, our primary customer. I hope that we're viewed as an enabler and supporter of their mission. We help connect the right groups across the trade space, across the industrial base, to help accelerate and improve and support their mission. That we're viewed as an objective convener with no other dog in the fight except let's meet the mission, let's support the mission, let's support in this case, the U.S. Navy. And then outside the U.S. Navy, we certainly engage in a spirit of cooperation and mission focus with all of these different groups that I mentioned, be they academic, private sector, societies, other alliances, consulting groups, anyone that we think we need to engage to support the Navy's mission is who we will go to, again, in a manner that we hope is adding value and is not viewed as competitive. So with that, I'll stop there, Jake, and happy to answer any questions that may have popped up or that come up along the way.
Awesome. So yes, we do have a few questions rolling in for you, John. First one up is Michael. He wants to let you know that his company is a BlueForge partner and they are part of the MIB. They've done work with Austal and Expansia, but they would like to know how they could get in contact for funding so that they could add critical machine infrastructure for copper nickel valves.
Awesome. Hey, Michael, great setup. I think the general issue that you raise, and that we certainly bump into across the industrial base, is need for capital. And certainly there's a number of different flavors of capital.
Hmm.
And we would love to talk to you about the groups that we've engaged, particularly since I joined in August. This is an area that I've had the team put a lot of focus on. So we would love to figure out a way and Michael et al. So to everybody, if that's something that we can support from um, um, access to capital, I'll call it that. If we can certainly, we'd love to get in there and help support that conversation. So, um, Michael, if you go to BlueForge, Jake, is my contact information? Sorry for doing a sidebar here in front of everybody, but will my contact information be shared?
We can definitely attach it and everything like that when we
Yeah,
send out the
excellent,
recording. So,
excellent. So yeah, Michael, please hit
mhm.
me up.
Awesome. So, Pete is coming in with a few questions. His first one is, where could they get a list of the AMAC members?
Pete, the right answer is I don't know, but I can get it for you.
Okay, perfect. And then
So
he also wants to know about the relationship between Blue Forge and the Marine Industrial Base and also the TPP.
yeah, again, not satisfying, Pete, but the right answer is I don't know, but I can definitely connect you to the right people here in the building that do that.
Okay, awesome. Also, Marlene wants to know, is Blue Forge working closely with the Navy's Maritime Industrial Base program, West Coast Accelerated Trades?
I believe so. Would love to get more into that conversation with you, Marlene. Where I'm hedging is I'm not sure how much is public and not public, but would certainly like to converse with you on that. And I'll educate myself before that conversation.
Okay, gotcha. And looks like we also have one coming in. What kind of support do you guys have for new starting up machine shops?
Yes, please reach out to us, we keep uh, I'll show my age here. We keep a Rolodex, a spreadsheet, a CRM, it's a little bit fancier than a Rolodex. But yeah, please reach out to us and we would love to help get you integrated at the right places, at the right time, at the right scale. That's the role we play. So would absolutely love to have that conversation.
Okay, awesome. Also, Andy wants to know what role does the Blue Forge Alliance play in developing and driving strategy within and across the lines of effort?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a dynamic reciprocal type of activity where we do our best to keep an eye on choke points, anticipated needs. In kind of one area, another aspect of it is keeping our eye on adoption of new technology, whether aligned to those choke points and anticipated needs or totally new technologies that we think could help accelerate, in an unanticipated way. So I would say, an ongoing, active, collaborative type of activity, which I think goes to, it truly is a partnership.
Awesome. Rebecca wants to know what sort of involvement does Blue Forge Alliance have in the K through 12 space as far as recruiting?
Yeah, I think that's pretty nascent, Rebecca, but I think, you know, shockingly, I'm always shocked by the data that shows how you can inspire kids at the K through 12 area. So I don't think it's something that we've leveraged enough, but would certainly be interested in helping to drive. I've seen that the power of that in other areas, and I think it's an area we need to get. I originally wanted to dismiss those programs of K through 12, and then I saw the impact and was a convert.
Mm. Awesome. Also, we have a attendee who wants to know, are Canadian suppliers being looked at to assist the marine industrial base when it comes to machining, additive manufacturing, non-destructive testing, and all the other things that you've mentioned?
Uh, the right answer is I'm not sure Canadian, but I would say, yeah, let's have a conversation. I mean, I see no reason why we can't. I mean, there are certainly, uh, we're all aware of the rules, regulations, the laws, et cetera, across international boundaries. But we are certainly part of the Australian, UK AUKUS type of activity. Would love to have a conversation, and we may have activities with Canadian-based partners that I'm not aware of. But if we don't, we should at least have that conversation.
Okay, awesome. Also, Ray in the questions wants to let you know that they are a silicone extrusion and molding manufacturer for surgical parts, but they also have worked previously with the Navy. How should they get started to get known and acquainted with submarine and naval contacts so that they can get involved in that industry as well?
Yeah, same answer, I think, to Marlon or Pete, which is, yeah, please reach out and connect with us. And, you know, if you come in through me, I'll get you
Mhm.
connected to the right program managers and the right lines of effort for awareness, and then also keep you in our database to make sure that we're engaging on a regular basis.
Awesome. Also, Nancy says that you guys are doing great efforts on recruiting, but what recruiting efforts or demographics do you think are missing?
Cool. Thanks, Nancy. Um, I don't know. I'd love to hear from the audience. I've not seen a breakdown, for example, from buildsubmarines.com. I'm assuming that it exists. But if anyone, uh, in the audience sees, a cohort, kind of a target group that we should think about and focus on, I'd love to hear about it because that's a huge challenge.
Let's see, double checking through the. Looks like we have answered almost all of the questions that have been sent in. Still plenty of time, though. If you guys do have any more questions for John, I do know personally you mentioned that kind of the magic number that's been thrown out is the 120,000 new workers for the maritime or the industrial complex. And you also talked about all of the new technologies that you guys are hoping to implement in the shipbuilding and submarine building process. So if those new technologies are implemented, does that number of 120,000 go down because the advanced technologies would be kind of helping out the existing workforce?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable expectation. I think, in general, technology integration just simply opens up other occupations. Technology X, and now I need to maintain technology X. So it might
Mhm,
shift the
mhm,
that demand, but certainly from a national perspective, I see that number as a double-edged sword. Like, great, like, lots of jobs. This is fantastic. Great
mhm,
careers. Lots of hopefully decades of opportunity, whether in maritime defense industrial base or private sector manufacturing, and how that plays out with that number.
mhm,
I don't I don't know. And I've not um, really dug into that number. When I
mhm.
hear all the other investments made are being made or being promised across the nation for manufacturing, that just to me ramps up that bar of a little bit to your question, Jake. Like, okay, I need to offset the human demand. I need to, do some man-machine teaming here, but I
Mhm.
did anticipate where new workforce is going to need to be applied.
Okay, gotcha. Bruce wants to know what if they don't think their company falls within the four areas that BlueForge focuses on? Do you also keep a list of other types of vendors that could partner with you? And would you want some samples of their work in order to kind of see what their value is?
Yeah, certainly that's a great question because that list is not meant to be exclusive. I would say that if anyone listening believes that they have something that can support the defense industrial base writ large, please reach out. As far as samples, what we would do is make sure to connect you with the right individuals to see the samples. Um, we certainly have people in the building that would love to play with samples,
Mhm.
but not in the way that you need from a business perspective. So please, yeah, not an exclusive list. Again, any and every technology we would love to see, hear, and know about it.
Gotcha. Also, Nancy wants to know, uh, where would one who is seeking training or degrees in manufacturing kind of look in order to get involved with the Blue Forge Alliance?
Yeah, the buildsubmarines.com website is really slick in a good way. It's really impressive in um, being regionally focused, uh, letting you search based on kind of career careers of interest, and then uh, potential employers downstream. So I would start there. If not satisfied, or if that doesn't completely answer the question, please reach out. Happy to reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect with the right people that oversee that activity.
Gotcha. Also, Marlene wanted to say that there should be more of a focus on CNC machining and training when it comes to the marine industrial base or maritime industrial base. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Marlene, thank you. Yeah, I will certainly pass that along and see what kind of reaction I get.
Just double checking. Looks like I said, still plenty of time, guys, to ask John questions. Another one that I have is obviously there are plenty of the shipbuilding, the factories and the shipyards and stuff like that are along the coasts. But if you are, kind of in middle America, are there still things that you can do that would help out without having to move to one of the coastal cities that deals with the actual shipbuilding industry?
Oh, definitely. And that is, just the general bucket to me are, landlocked states. But um, the members of the industrial base or any part of manufacturing, I suspect, to the earlier question, technologies or applications that haven't traditionally been thought of, or overlooked, or whatever term we want to use, that can be leveraged to support either defense industrial base, maritime industrial base. Um, I think the the spirit here is, um, I don't care if it's Wyoming, Oklahoma, North Dakota. If it's something that's going
Mm.
to speed it, we need to know about it and get it integrated.
Awesome. Let's see. I think that just about wraps things up. I know there are plenty of people who are looking to get in contact with you, John, so we'll be sure to forward all of their contact info to you so you can answer any questions that we might not have been able to get to today. But without anything else really rolling in, I'd like to thank our 2025 webinar series sponsor, Kennametal, once again, and also today's sponsors, Promez and Smithers, for today's webinar. Obviously, John mentioned it. We do have part 3 with the Blue Forge Alliance coming up on December 10th, and that is Integrate Nationally, Catalyze Locally. That one also begins at noon Eastern. You can register by heading to the events page on any of our 4 websites. But obviously, a massive thank you to the Blue Forge Alliance, and a massive, massive thank you to Dr. John Mogford for all of your time and your expertise today, John. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, and thanks to the audience, and Jake, thank you.
You can listen to all of our episodes of Manufacturing Matters and Lunch and Learn podcast from the MFG Radio Network on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our websites, today'smedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, defenseandmunitions.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.